Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Manchester United 2, Nottingham Forest 0. Apologies for the delay if you are in the live chat, but just like Manchester United in the warm-up against Nottingham Forest, a few technical difficulties, and our replacement, Josh, who was filling in for Larry, had some technical difficulties just like Sabitzer did before kickoff, and that is why we are a few minutes late, so apologies for that, but do appreciate the patience and waiting for us. But Josh was filling in for Larry. It is Larry's birthday, so he's unable to make it tonight. I'm not sure where he is, I think maybe off on a 10-pin bowling sort of party or something. I thought the pubcast was sort of the priority, but happy birthday to Larry. Hope all is well and he's enjoying his day. Make sure to leave a like on the video for that. And also for Manchester United, big win against Nottingham Forest, a huge 3 points, especially given the context of the results around the Premier League throughout the weekend. It's an absolutely huge 3 points. As if you're any regulars to the podcast, usually we have 2 or 3 people on, so then we have a bit of a chat. If not, a little bit solo and sort of a little bit on the fly. I can put the link to join the stream in the live chat. If you do want to jump on and help us out and have a bit of a chat, feel free. I can throw the link in if you do want to jump on and we can have a bit of a chat. If not, get your comments in and that'll help me through it, and I'll sort of bounce all the topics and ideas off everyone in the chat and just give my thoughts on the match. So if you do want a link to join the stream, I'll throw it in there. Let me know and I'll get it to you. If not, get all your topics, questions, points in there, and we'll read them out and have a bit of a quick match review, because ultimately a huge 3 points for Man United. I think all of us after the we didn't lose to Sevilla, but when you it felt like a loss when you sort of throw 2 goals away at the end of the game, and now Sevilla you'd think potentially are favourites. Definitely felt like a loss at Old Trafford the other day. To come back and with the injuries, Lisandro Martinez out for the season, Varane a lengthy period out, the upcoming suspension of Bruno Fernandes, it was a real sort of negative sort of down feel going into this match against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest potentially fighting for their lives in the Premier League, and it just had the whole makings of a sort of one of those banana skins you see late on in the season. Look at Arsenal at West Ham. Sometimes you get these results away at teams like this where you just drop those 1 or 2 points. And ultimately, that was sort of on the cards for Manchester United, but they performed well. And regardless of the result, which was very good, obviously the most important thing, I thought one of the crucial things in regards to the game was the performance. I thought United were brilliant. I think we'll go through back to front in regards to individual performances, but maybe someone like the stats to correct me. I don't think David De Gea made a save. He's a little bit busy at times in regards to they throwing a lot of crosses into the box, and we'll get into his distribution, which I thought was quite good. So he's quite busy, but in regards to stopping shots, I don't think David De Gea really had anything to do. So the performance in a situation like that to go and sort of dominate the game, and another day, really, what could that have been? That could have been 5 or 6-0. And ultimately talking that one of the best performances of the season. This comes without our 2 best defenders and obviously Marcus Rashford. Now, Josh is just jumping back on. I'll see if he is, how his connection is, and we'll give him a last chance. So this is maybe Christian Eriksen off the bench, and we'll see how he goes, because Christian Eriksen I thought was brilliant. But here's Josh. How's that connection going, mate?
Are we in?
Yeah, we're in. We're good. Okay, Christian Eriksen has come off the bench to save the day. And my God, Josh, we'll kick off there. Christian Eriksen, he saved the day, because Sabitzer, in terms of our midfield situation, a little bit weak, a little bit lightweight. And for him to come on, my big thing with Christian Eriksen in regards to the challenge he faced, I've been in that position when you were coming off the bench, when you're warming up as a substitute, it's different to warming up as part of the starting 11. And it was a very late change. So ultimately, it's a huge challenge for him to get his body physically and his mind ready to start a Premier League match. I know we can sit here and say he's a professional, he should always be ready, of course, but subconsciously there is a difference. And he was thrown in the deep end there. And Christian Eriksen, I thought we'll get in the 3-2-1s in a little bit. And my God, he must have been one of the best players on the pitch.
Absolutely fantastic. I think a huge part of Eriksen, Tom, is the fact that he's not started for 2 or 3 months with that injury, and when you've been out for so long, you go in with such desire to get your first 90 minutes on the pitch. But that was his first start. I think he's come off the bench a few times. He's not started any games since his injury. So look, yourself, you've been injured yourself, and you put in the desire to have your first full 90 when you're back. It's always going to be a really, really positive game, and he's carried that momentum on. I don't know if any of you have listened to his podcast on United, on the Man United podcast, and you see a player there that's hungry just to prove everyone wrong. He's had a lot of obstacles come his way. His well publicised obstacle in the I forget when it was. It wasn't the World Cup. It was the Euros. Yeah, the Euros. So look, it was a fantastic performance. Not just from him. I think from the majority of our midfield, they can hold their heads up really. it was a fantastic performance.
Yeah, definitely. So here, evening, mate. Hope you're well. I hope you're well, mate. I do appreciate that. Anthony, Ericsson, and Fernandez, top notch. Yeah, Bruno Fernandez and Ericsson. It was like the old. Not going to compare them to sort of York and Cole or Xavi and Iniesta or Rooney and Ronaldo, but they did seem to be on the same wavelength. And obviously, they have played well together this season, but they really seemed on the same page against Nottingham Forest. I don't know if that was Nottingham Forest midfield weren't sort of quite at it, and just sort of our superiority sort of showed, or they just sort of Ron Song. Maguire poor early, but recovered as well. Yeah, we'll get into Harry Maguire because different sort of views on his performance in regards to the perception of what he actually did, but recovered well. Also, Sancho was frustrated, should have scored that chance right at the start. That's what Jadon Sancho needed. It was handed to him on a plate. Okay, here you go, get your confidence up in the first 10 seconds of the match. He scored in the first 10 seconds against Sevilla. That was ruled offside, correctly so, of course. And then this one here, have another go here, boost your confidence. And ultimately, it's a shot that gets sort of saved on the line. Those things happen. But at this level, to make a change, as Eric Ten Hag says, life's not fair at Manchester United. You sort of have to sort of make the most of it when it comes. When that chance came for Jadon Sancho,
we lost
you have to do a little bit better.
I think we have. I'm going to have to.
I'm still here from my making. You're a little bit frozen and broken up. My audio is still fine. Your picture is frozen. So first person in the live chat to let us know who has gone missing and who needs substituting onto the bench. Do let us know. But I have a feeling Josh is frozen. He's completely frozen on mine. So Josh, I'll just kick you out one more time and come back in.
Today, isn't it?
So I'll just kick Josh out. Well, I'll wait for someone in the live chat. Someone has to help us. So I don't want to kick myself out and then the stream completely not work in terms of someone will need to end the broadcast. So in the live chat, do help us out. But what was my last point there in regards to Jadon Sancho? Yeah, that chance there was simply needed to take a decent shot. It sort of got on target but saved on the line. But he needs to do better there. And I thought his performance today was sort of good. I thought it was fine. But ultimately in the position he's in when Marcus Rashford comes back into fitness and comes available for selection again, Marcus Rashford will take that spot. So Jadon Sancho can perform well. That's all well and good. But in terms of nailing down a spot, Jadon Sancho simply isn't doing enough, Josh.
No, I think Jadon Sancho was really disappointing. I think for me, really disappointing today. I think he was a weak link in the starting 11. Even though he scored, we'll go into Antony Dalot. I thought he was very risky as well, and probably an unconventional position for him. Not so much an unconventional Jadon Sancho. Very sloppy at times, indecisive on the ball. One or two good, skillful moments, especially in the second half, but I just don't think he's proven enough to hold that consistency. And we talked about the big long break he had over the winter in England anyway, and how, at the time we thought it was a really good thing. At the moment, we're just seeing the same things, and I don't know if he needs a more for long break. I'd be harsh to say if that was a permanent long break for us. I don't know if he's out for it.
Josh, what's happening? You are breaking up a little bit on my end. I will kick you out. We'll keep this sort of relatively short, this review. You're breaking up a little bit. So, but we'll definitely have you back on because I love nothing more than chatting United with you. But do appreciate your little sort of sub appearance off the bench. Do appreciate that, mate. But please do leave a like on. My mum's here. I'm saying it's all clear on my end. But do leave a like for Josh on his way out, and we'll definitely have him back on. Fingers crossed after another win. I'll make sure we don't get you on after another loss, Josh. We'll get you on after a win. But and my mum, good to see you. You're coming in clear, Thomas. So I just want to start. So go back to front before I get into 3, 2, 1. So do let me know your thoughts on all the individual performances. But for me, Harry Maguire at the back, the first. He's a magnet for mistakes. You just look at what happened against Sevilla. He does nothing wrong. The ball sort of rocketed and sort of hits his big head and goes into the top corner. Nothing through his own wrongdoing. It just sort of hits him on the head, and it shocks no one. I remember it was one against Everton a couple of years ago. You knew as soon as they were going to have a shot, it was going to deflect off Harry Maguire. He's unfortunately a magnet for mistakes at the moment. Now, that first sort of 2 minutes where they got him behind, it looks horrible by Harry Maguire. The referee was played. It's a foul by the Nottingham Forest striker. The Nottingham Forest striker is the one holding Harry Maguire. Obviously, he's very professional in the way he does it. He makes it look like Harry Maguire's holding him, but it's a foul by the Nottingham Forest player. But he goes down, and the referee gives Harry Maguire the yellow. Through no wrongdoing of Harry Maguire. It was very good defending, but a good professional. It was well done by the striker in terms of fooling the referee, but that's simply what he did. He fooled the referee. You can see by Harry Maguire's reaction, he knew exactly what happened. But ultimately, what is the result of what happened? Harry Maguire got booked, and he looked like he fouled someone on the halfway line. So it looked like a huge mistake by Harry Maguire, and that is sort of just the way the cookie crumbles around him at the moment. No matter what he does, it turns to anything but gold. And I think there was a pass later on, which he obviously it was a nothing pass. It was a 2 meter pass, went out for throw, and it didn't sort of cost us. But it was it just not working for him. And sort of other than that, though, the performance in terms of growing into the game, while didn't have to do too much to sort of defend in, he did his job well enough. Now, he didn't have a great performance. It wasn't a 7 or 8 out of 10, but I think it was sort of a solid 5.5, 6 out of 10. Like, it wasn't a disaster people sort of wanted it to be in terms of it was a clean sheet away from home. And as I said, the highlights that sort of did stand out was that early booking. It wasn't an early booking. It was a foul by the striker. The referee was con. So Harry Maguire obviously doesn't do enough to sort of warrant a spot over Lisandro Martinez or Rafael Varane. But at the moment, he's going to have to be playing because they're obviously unavailable now. Harry Maguire won't be available for the semi-final. That'll be very interesting if Luke Shaw is back fit and available. But Victor Lindelof, I thought Victor Lindelof had a very good game coming back. Obviously, he hasn't played much in terms we talk about Aaron Wan-Bissaka when he came back from sort of being frozen out of the squad. We look at Jadon Sancho. We look at all players. If Fred has to come in, how he performs after not playing. These are all these discussions. We don't really have it with Victor Lindelof, and he's probably sort of had the most limited game time, especially out of all the defenders. So for him to come in and perform like that, I thought was extremely positive to see because we're going to have to rely on him. He's almost first choice centre back now at the moment, considering Maguire's going to miss a game and Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez are unavailable for selection. So I'll be interested to get your thoughts on 3-2-1s in a few minutes in regards to Victor Lindelof. I thought he was well up for a shout. The fullbacks was interesting because Wan-Bissaka obviously keeps his spot at right back. But the interesting one was a couple of hours before kickoff, they were saying Terrell Malacia wasn't available in the matchday selection. So everyone was thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? Who's going to play left back? There was rumours, and it was proven to be true, that Mark Gerardo, the young Spanish right back, was on the bench, of course, but a right back as well. We're well stacked, so that meant Diego Dalot went to left back, and it was obviously he has played left back plenty of times for Manchester United. I think when he went to AC Milan on loan, he played there quite a bit as well. But obviously throws a little bit, okay, that's not ideal, so a little bit of hesitancy in regards to before the match. But Diego Dalot, you'd have to say, well, I wouldn't say his best performance in United shirt, but considering he's out of position, I thought Diego Dalot was brilliant. Ultimately, we'll get into the goal, which I'm sure will get him in a 3-2-1. It's a brilliant goal and a product of what Eric Ten Hag, and I guess every manager, I think we look at it from Eric Ten Hag's point of view, but a product of what all managers in the Premier League are doing now in regards to their fullbacks, that inverted fullbacks, and they're pretty much playing in midfield. If you look at that run and finish from Diego Dalot, that's a number 10 or a number 8. That's not the left back. But simply that is how sort of the modern football Eric Ten Hag wants his sort of footballers and defenders to play. And it's a great run by Diego Dalot and obviously brilliant football by Antony, which we'll get into at the higher end of the pitch. But Diego Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, both very good performances. I think as things stand, if Luke Shaw comes back in regards to the centre-back debate, I think Luke Shaw shifts inside to centre-back. So I think for the rest of the season, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is going to be right back and Diego Dalot at left back. Now, obviously, if Terrell Malacia is fit, obviously he could throw Malacia at left back, but after that performance from Dalot, I don't think I've seen that performance from Terrell Malacia. So let me know your thoughts in regards to the first choice fullbacks going forward. If Luke Shaw is when fit, if he's a centre back partner in Harry Maguire or Victor Lindelof. Mum here, my dad's saying Bruno has got to stop whinging like a little girl. It's one of those things. We'll get into Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen. That's a visual a lot of people don't like with Bruno Fernandes, but that's his game. Did we tell Roy Keane to stop kicking people and Roy Keane to stop arguing with referees, or Wayne Rooney to stop waving his hands out and kicking people and sort of fighting with referees? No, that's part of the game. That's what keeps Bruno Fernandes in the game. I know me, when I used to play, I used to talk to the referee just to keep me engaged, to try and get the ref on side. Like the refs will feel guilty at stages and they will sort of come to your side. And Bruno has them sort of wrapped around his finger at times. Now, obviously, when you're losing games, sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating and looks bad. But Bruno Fernandes is doing a job in terms of his leadership for Manchester United is on a different level, especially when you compare him to sort of the way Harry Maguire has sort of led Manchester United in recent seasons. I think Bruno Fernandes, you can tell by the sort of respect he has from the teammates. I think he's leading by example. Yes, it can be sort of a bit frustrating when you're sort of watching him and say, get on with it. But that is him getting on with it. If he wasn't doing that, I don't think he performs like that. I think that's how he engages himself, how he feels part of the game when things aren't going his way. But Josh, I was in the chat, to appreciate you staying around, mate. Bruno scores one or two of those goals. It's a complete performance. And Bruno Fernandes was I wouldn't say one of his best performances, but ultimately one of those two, that goal from the corner, that would have been an absolutely brilliant finish by him. So, yeah, very good by Bruno. And obviously the consistency or the sort of familiarity with Christian Eriksen, I thought was brilliant to see. Ryan, good to see you, mate. Solid away win. Antony looking better and better each game. Massive game for Bruno. He was incredible. Yeah, and look, I agree with my mum and dad in regards to the visual of Bruno Fernandes waving his hands around, but that's who he is. Okay? Every player has these traits, and the moment you try and stop someone being who they are, it's going to take away from their performance. I thought the worst thing for Wayne Rooney when Wayne Rooney was given the captaincy, I thought it took so much away from Wayne Rooney. He tried to behave on the pitch, and Wayne Rooney was at his best when he wasn't behaving. And that sounds stupid, but the facts are in front of us. So Bruno does need to sort of wind in a little bit if the referees aren't on his side. But as things stand, I've got no issue with Bruno Fernandes. Casemiro, let me know your thoughts on Casemiro. I thought it was good, solid. But in terms of the expectations and the standards he has set, I thought maybe a little bit sloppy. I thought if Fred or McTominay put that performance in that Casemiro did, would be saying that's not good enough. Casemiro put it in, and I thought it was well good enough, but very interesting in regards to perception of the two people. Again, Casemiro's coming off a little bit of a layoff, mate. He might be one of those players like a Wayne Rooney who might take 5-10 games to sort of get going after a little bit of a layoff. So no, obviously concerns with Casemiro. I thought, 6 out of 10, we're usually expecting the 8 or 9 out of 10. So Casemiro a little bit sloppy, but obviously got the job done. And maybe off the ball, if I watch the match back again, maybe Casemiro, I'd see little things that he was doing that maybe I didn't catch on first viewing when I was watching live. So midfield, Bruno and Eriksen, I thought, as I touched with Josh earlier with regards to Christian Eriksen, his performance, not having sort of the preparation of knowing that he's starting, I thought coming in and perform like that was brilliant. Obviously, he looked a little bit sharper than previous weeks, which will obviously come. Obviously, he had that big layoff. He's obviously waiting for a little bit of fitness or to regain a little bit of fitness, so I thought he looked good. Going into that front three, Anthony Martial, without a goal, should have scored right at the end before his substitution. But Anthony Martial, I thought, is brilliant. Again, I think he is that glue in terms of what links up that attack. Unfortunately, he didn't get the goal, but defensively and to link out the play, I thought Anthony Martial was brilliant. And you just see the difference compared to him and Wout Weghorst. And that's not to be critical of Weghorst, just the fact, two different quality of footballers. On the left, Jadon Sancho, as we touched, I thought he actually played quite well. But he's in a position he needs to do more than well, and that's not fair, but that is life, and he needs to take his chance a little bit more than he's doing. I think he's contributing to what Erik ten Hag wants in regards to the way as I said, we played very good football today. And a lot of us, me and Larry, often agree. Sometimes you're obviously, or sometimes better placed to play better football without Marcus Rashford. I think, I'm not saying we would have played sort of worse with Rashford in there, but Jadon Sancho, I think, contributed to the better link-up play and the better football. Marcus Rashford makes different decisions. Now, some of those different decisions end up in goals. So Marcus Rashford obviously sort of warrants his spot. But just in regards to the nice football, I think Jadon Sancho did contribute quite positively to that. But he needs to do more because when Marcus Rashford is fit, he's going to play, and that would be the right decision. So Jadon Sancho, it's not working at the moment, but fingers crossed. He just needs that goal. If that happened, the goal against Sevilla was onside, maybe that's a different game. If the goal, this one goes in, or if the shot in the first couple of minutes goes in, it's maybe a different situation for Jadon Sancho. So do let us know your thoughts on Jadon Sancho. Is there a way back, or we sort of jumping the gun a little bit in regards to jumping to conclusions? I'm not sure. But Jadon Sancho needs something quick to happen, because obviously when Marcus Rashford comes back in, Jadon Sancho is going to find himself on the bench, and suddenly Manchester United having a person who's on over 300 grand a week sitting on the bench and sort of not quite up to it, that's where it becomes a problem. And obviously the last play before we get into 3-2-1s, Antony. Good goal. Well, I say good goal. Obviously did well to follow up. Obviously very easy tapping, but you have to be in there. So well done for the goal. I thought his performance was very good in regards to often showed that, not a threat, but the option of going to the right sometimes and sort of around the outside, and wasn't so successful with it, but it was definitely there. And then that obviously opened up once or twice to allow him the opportunity to come inside on his left foot. So a very good performance by Antony. And ultimately, defensively, you're obviously always going to get a great performance from Antony in regards to work rate. So 100% happy with Antony. But then ultimately, the huge impact, besides the goal, was that second goal in regards to that run and pass for Diogo Dalot. Brilliant. And that's the difference in regards to a player can perform well. If Antony does that, exact same run, exact same pass, but the run isn't there, you don't recognize the good work from Antony. But ultimately, that is where that team chemistry and sort of the team instruction all sort of flows into one. In regards to, it was a brilliant run for Diogo Dalot. I just think as Antony's running in, everyone's thinking, okay, his one option is to whip it to the far post, a left foot shot. I think he's done it 3 or 4 times. But ultimately, if you get that run, sort of increases the options for Antony. And when Antony was sort of dribbling into on his left foot, I think the option or the idea Antony had in his head was to work some space for a shot. But ultimately, if you get that run, that changes one or two position of the defenders, which opens up a little bit of space. And ultimately, if Diogo Dalot's not there and he's just standing, let's see what Antony can do, he's obviously not going to play that pass. So then suddenly you look at Antony and we're questioning his decision making. But ultimately, a ball player like an Antony, like a Christian Eriksen, like a Bruno Fernandes, like a Juan Mata when Juan Mata was here, you need runners. And ultimately, in that position, so often in the last couple of years, we've had players who have just sort of passed the buck and, okay, hopefully someone else does it. But it was a great run by Diogo Dalot and a beautiful ball by Antony. And we'll get into 3-2-1s. Let us know your 3-2-1s in the comments before we do wrap up. I think Antony 100%. Obviously, the goal, the assist, and I thought was probably not our best player. I think Bruno and Christian Eriksen were our best footballers on the day. But in regards to a positive impact on the match, I think Antony 100% was the best one. Ryan here, Kevin De Bruyne passed for Diogo Dalot. Look, it was a brilliant pass, no doubt about it. Rob Tom Haag, definitely good to have you here, mate. If you make sure you do subscribe to It's a Football Thing. Links are all on our socials. They'll be live in half an hour discussing all things Manchester United and Forest, and obviously more importantly, some rivals dropping points. So if you need a bit of Premier League talk, go to It's a Football Thing. They're live at 8:30 Sydney time. And Adam, Tom Thoughts on us linked with Alex McAllister. Like him a lot, but think he's the wrong Brighton midfielder we should be going for. Look, you can take your pick of who you want from Brighton. I'm not sure which one I would, if I had to choose, okay, which one, but I just have a hunch dramatically. I do have a feeling that he's going to be Manchester United bound. He obviously is going to leave. Is he going to go to Arsenal? Very likely to go to Chelsea. They're going to buy everyone. But he could go to Liverpool, could go to Arsenal, could go to City, could go to United. Just a hunch with no information, just a gut feeling. I can see him at Manchester United, and I wouldn't lose any sleep over that because he's obviously a brilliant player. But then you could obviously weigh up the arguments. Do you want Matoma or do you want Caicedo? Do you want Evan Ferguson? No shortage of players you do want from Brighton. So I think McAllister could end up at United. If he's the one I want from Brighton, I'm not sure. But we're obviously going to be in the Champions League next season. Hopefully this result propels us towards Champions League football. And if so, we're going to need a deeper squad. Because say one or two players get injured. Now we're getting players injured in the warm-up and players out for the season and suspensions. We need a far deeper squad than what we do have. So McAllister would, in my opinion, would definitely be welcomed at Old Trafford. But just back on Antony, before we get into 2 points and 1 point, my main thing is just we have this around the Premier League, and as Manchester United fans, we sort of rightly throw shade at other clubs, and we look at, okay, who's the flop? But pretty much unanimously amongst sort of football Twitter, and I know that's not where we should be getting our football opinions, but around football Twitter, the perception is Antony's the biggest flop in the Premier League this season. Obviously, there's the narrative that he's cost 100 million. He didn't cost 100 million. Obviously, the pound and euro conversion rate, and he was even a little bit less than that. But the perception, he was cost 100 million, and he's a flop. And I just think you go around and just look at the facts. So forget the eye test and what you think of a player and how you value players, etc. But ultimately, look at the facts. There's so many players around the league who cost as much, if not more, performing far less, both on the eye test and actually statistical numbers, far worse than Antony. And I'm just thinking, why is it? I know why, because he plays for Manchester United. But why has he been labelled the flop? When you look at Mudryk, and okay, he's only been here a couple of months, a couple of weeks, but still, he's been woeful in my opinion. You look at Richarlison. He scored 3 goals this season in the Premier League, and all 3 have been offside. And what did he cost 60 million for Spurs, and he hasn't scored a Premier League goal? And I'm just thinking he has more cards. One for Richarlison. He has more yellow cards celebrating disallowed goals than he has goals. And I'm just thinking, ultimately, could you imagine that story if that was a Manchester United player? It would be all there is. But you don't hear anything about Mudryk. You don't hear anything about Richarlison. And Antony is actually performing quite well in terms of we've seen Erik ten Hag. If a player's not performing, Erik ten Hag won't play them. He sold Cristiano Ronaldo or got rid of him. He's dropped Harry Maguire. If a player is not performing, they won't play. Antony's playing every single week when he's fit. And that's because he's given Erik ten Hag something. And I think Antony, since his arrival, obviously there's a visible frustration when we want him to go to the right and he cuts in on the left sometimes. Obviously, I share that frustration. That's his game. That's his game. It won us the game today. So if you want to win these games, okay, you're going to have a bit of frustration next week when he sort of could go on the outside and he goes on the inside. That's the price you pay for these footballers. But Antony's sort of contribution to what Erik ten Hag wants, I think, has been brilliant. And forget flop of the season. I'm definitely not saying he's signing of the season. Unfortunately, you look across the road to Manchester City for that. But I think he's been very good. Like, take away the price tag, take away the baggage, take away everything. His contribution to our team, in terms of we're having a good season, regardless of, okay, how it'll end or how many trophies, we'll have that discussion in a little bit, but we're having a good season compared to our recent standards. And I think Antony has been pivotal to that. Obviously, Martinez, Varane, Casemiro, of course, Marcus Rashford. But on that right-hand side, his first name on the team sheet. And if Erik ten Hag sees value in him, he knows more than me. So I'm going to trust his sort of instinct. And just pleased for Antony shutting these haters up, because he is sort of regarded as the flop of the Premier League. And I think couldn't be further from the truth. And he's obviously that little bit of a shithouse, which we all like. I'm sure if Antony played for a rival, we'll probably hate him. But I love that at Manchester United. I think opposition fans don't like him. He gets under the skin of them. He gets under the skin of other players. And I think it's brilliant to see. I'm falling in love with Antony. Long may that continue. And hopefully for a big finish to the end of the season, because we will need that. He's obviously a threat, both in terms of creating. I know there's a stat going around about his assists might not be there, although I got a great one for Diogo Dalot. But he's that threat. He makes things happen. So we definitely need a big contribution from him in the final couple of games of the season. Ryan here, Antony for 3 points, Bruno for 2, Christian Eriksen for 1. Rob also going Antony for 3, Bruno 2, Christian Eriksen. The names are there in regards to Bruno and Eriksen. Adam as well going Antony for 2, Bruno man of the match, and Christian Eriksen for 1 point. For me, I would go Christian Eriksen for 2, just for might not be fair, but again, we go back to what Erik ten Hag says about fair. Antony obviously for the 3, but the reason I would have Christian Eriksen above Bruno Fernandes, now I could argue maybe Bruno had the better performance, but just I go back to the situation around Christian Eriksen and his introduction into this game. He shouldn't have performed as well as he did. Like, we can sit here and say, oh, he's a professional footballer, he should always be ready, but simply that is not the case. When you're the substitutes, they're just warming up, playing a game, a little rondo sort of thing for 40 minutes before the game. They're not sort of mentally preparing themselves from the start. Suddenly 2 minutes before kickoff, Sabitzer gets injured. Christian Eriksen has to go, oh, I'm starting now, and he has to physically and mentally get ready and switch in his head. And ultimately, to do that is very hard. Sometimes that happens, and you're sort of never quite ready, and you're always behind the 8 ball. But Christian Eriksen got on the ball at the start, and I thought was one of the best players on the pitch, and I thought was absolutely brilliant. So I would be going Christian Eriksen for 2 points and Bruno Fernandes for 1 point. But Indica here with a shout, which I wouldn't disagree with. I probably will disagree with it in regards to I want to give Eriksen some points. But Lindelof for 1, I thought out of the defence, Lindelof definitely one of the standout players. But actually, Diogo Dalot as well. He scored a good goal. I think Diogo Dalot will be hard pressed not to get points as well. But look, a lot of people have said Bruno and Eriksen in the comments. But I just loved what I saw from Christian Eriksen. So I'm going Eriksen for 2 points and Bruno Fernandes for 1 point. Diogo Dalot, Victor Lindelof, very hard done by, in my opinion, to miss out on points. But that is a good problem to have. So often in the last couple of seasons, we've just said, okay, De Gea 3 points, no one else gets any points. Ultimately now, if some people are going to have to miss out on some points, that is a good thing. So I'm unfortunate for Lindelof and Dalot, but I'm on Eriksen for 2 and Bruno Fernandes for 1, and obviously the match winner. No arguments there with Antony getting the 3 points. And Adam here saying, I've backed Antony since day one, also always seen the positives in his game. His defensive work rate is great. First season in the toughest league. I think that is a huge thing as well. You take away all the baggage and just look at it for what he is. He's a young 22-year-old from Brazil playing in the English Premier League. Like that takes him a sort of adaptation. And I think all things considered, again, I wouldn't say he's the sign-in of the season, obviously far from it. But in regards to what he is, I think he's been borderline brilliant. Like, really. There's always these stats going around about his goals. I think he's scored 8 goals. And I think, okay, it's not Haaland, or when you can look at someone scoring 40 or 50 goals, but he's not that player. And I think Antony has been great, and long may that continue. It'll be very interesting to see sort of how his career does progress at Old Trafford under Erik ten Hag. Like, if Erik ten Hag is to move on at some stage, what does that mean for Antony? Like, fingers crossed that's not the case for a while. But I think Antony sort of is very much part of what Erik ten Hag wants. If it was a different manager, if it was under Louis van Gaal or Jose Mourinho or Ralph Rangnick, would we be getting these performances out of Antony? I would have to say probably not. So I think that is where I look back at the job Erik ten Hag is doing, and it's doing an absolutely brilliant job, and long may that continue. 10 goals. Yeah, I saw 8 goals that were sort of popping around. I thought he had 10 goals. Maybe might be different competitions or something. I'm not sure, but he's doing absolutely brilliantly. And Eriksen on a free, still can't believe it. Pure class. Yeah, again, who do you think is to wrap up the podcast? The last little question in the live chat. Our signing of the season. Obviously for Manchester United, you have Terrell Malacia, I think was the first one from memory. And then Christian Eriksen joined, like, in terms of an official announcement, joined on the tour. Then obviously you got Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro, and Antony. So do let us know, just as we wrap up, who has been your signing of the season, all things considered. Price tag, productivity on the pitch, value for money and everything in terms of their contribution. So I'm going through those players. Nothing against Terrell Malacia, but I don't think anyone's throwing Malacia in there, so I can shift him to the side. You're looking at Christian Eriksen, Lisandro Martinez, and Antony. I think that now I read them out loud, probably the answer is quite sort of straightforward. I think it's Lisandro Martinez. If you disagree with me, let me know in the chat. I'll be very surprised if you disagree with me. But obviously, Lisandro Martinez cost a lot of money, probably about 20 million more than what he should have cost at the start of the window. But that is obviously how Manchester United do their business. But I thought, Lisandro Martinez, but in terms of, you just say, Rob, in regards to, he says on a free for Christian Eriksen. It's simply, that is where you do have to sort of throw him in this discussion. In regards to, sorry, a bit of a frog in the throat. You have to throw him in this discussion because for a free transfer to perform like he is and the consistency in regards to when he joined Manchester United, we thought, how's his fitness in regards to his heart? Is he going to be able to perform 90 minutes every week? There was a period of time where he was at the start of the season. I think he's proved so many people wrong, proved me wrong. I thought he was coming in as a bit of a one-matter replacement. Far from it. He's been absolutely brilliant for Manchester United, but I would say Lisandro Martinez has been our best signing of the season. And could be Casemiro. Well, I forgot Casemiro, obviously. Maybe a little bit hard there. That has changed my mind. How could I forget Casemiro or Eriksen, even though they've missed about 2 months? Casemiro definitely in with a shout. Although I would say in regards to he's got third in assists and been out for 3 months in regards to Christian Eriksen. But the Casemiro one, why I would put Lisandro Martinez above Casemiro, one, you do weigh in the price tag sort of thing. Like, shouldn't, but you naturally do. But Casemiro, how many games has he missed through suspension? I just think he's made often, and again, some of those suspensions through sort of no wrongdoing or being sort of harshly treated by referees. But the facts are the facts. He's missed a chunk through suspension through his sort of so-called wrongdoing. So that is where I think Lisandro Martinez might get it. Obviously a little bit cheaper as well than Casemiro, but obviously Casemiro has been an absolutely brilliant signing. But for me, Lisandro Martinez would take that cake. But as I said, apologies for a little bit of a disjointed pod today. Obviously, Larry was out and had some injuries, or Josh had a bit of a connection issue, like Sabitzer and Christian Eriksen at the start of the match. We do appreciate Josh jumping on. We'll definitely get him on again soon. I do appreciate everyone in the live chat getting your opinions in for me to sort of bounce off. I'm always a little bit tricky going solo, but do appreciate the support and the help. And trying to think what the schedule is now. Obviously, the next game for Manchester United is Friday morning on Sydney time against Sevilla. The return leg, that's going to be huge. So we'll definitely go live Friday morning, 7 a.m. Sydney time, or fingers crossed, no extra time or penalties, which is a possibility. And that'll be about 10 p.m. UK time for the Sevilla match. And then obviously Brighton FA Cup semi-final. The games do come thick and fast. But do appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Rob here, do appreciate their support. As I said, I'll be going over to watch its football thing live in 20 minutes. The main reason is just to sort of revel in sort of what is happening at Chelsea. He'll be talking with a Chelsea fan, and we think we've got one or two struggles at Manchester United. Look what is happening at Stamford Bridge. They are an absolute shambles. Now, they won't get relegated. Of course, they won't get relegated. But if you do look at the table and they're running, there's a real chance they lose the next 5 or 6 games. And if they do lose those 5 or 6 games, what happens in regards to the table? Now, they're not going to get relegated, but my God, it does sort of paint some pretty viewing. So do appreciate all that. And long may that continue down at Stamford Bridge as Manchester United continue to progress to hopefully 2 more trophies and making a bit of a cup treble. And I'll mention that word probably more importantly, stopping Manchester City in the FA Cup of their pursuit of our treble. But until then, do appreciate everyone's support. Please do leave a like on the video on your way out. Hit subscribe if you're new. Larry will hopefully be back during the week for a little bit more content, and we'll chat to you then. Until then, have a good one. Cheers.